Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Collective. We got another awesome show coming up for you today. We got some new faces, we got some old faces, we got some awesome people, and we'll get right into the actual discussion here in a second, but make sure that everybody likes the page, subscribes, does all that stuff, hits the notification bell. That way you can be notified every time we go live, which is every day. So, um, any thoughts? Anybody got anything off the top of their head before we dive into a topic or thought process or story? Anybody got anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to establish a new protocol. I think kind of tried to establish it the other day when Gary came on. And I wouldn't mind
Mm,
if right up at the
right.
front of each time we jump into a live and it's a new person. Of course, Corey, we know Corey, Radmaster. We know Glen, Radmaster. We've never had Dave on before. So just like Gary, maybe a 10-second pitch if you
10-second
can,
pitch.
Chance.
I can do that. All right. Well, as far as I know,
Maybe
Dave,
15.
awesome dude, former PPCLI sniper, pretty a badass on the guitars, as you can see in the back there as well. And he's also the founder, owner, and operator of Bush Wookie Apparel.
That's correct.
And him and I have worked together before on the Walk for Veterans and just hanging out, have it on the podcast, all good stuff. Love chatting with you. Happy
Cool,
to have you on.
thanks.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah.
Anytime. Did I miss anything?
No, not really. Yeah. It's first of all, thank you for the invite. And there's some familiar faces, like obviously with Mad Hatter and you, Chance and Shaun. I'm just getting to know you. And Glen, nice to see you, man.
Nice to
and
meet you
like
too, brother.
this is great. So yeah, I've served with the PPCLI and also served with the Argyle, so I did some reserve time. 19 years altogether. I had a great tour, a couple of great tours, great service, met a lot of great people, and ended up wanting to do something a little bit more with Bushwookie. But then there's if the topic comes up, and we might end up discussing a little bit of the incident where Bushwookie and stuff like that's on hold right now. I've been doing a lot with Arrowhead and whatnot, but lately I've been focusing mostly on recovery. I've been focusing on trying to get creative a lot more, hence the reason why I say guitars. And I'm actually in the middle of like almost creating my own little music studio right now, which is kind of cool, man. So so lots of exciting things coming up.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. That's gonna be fun. Your music has been just awesome. The stuff that I've seen on the
Yeah, I didn't know you could
IG.
play as well as you can. I mean, like, you're good.
I'm
man.
just getting started, man.
Dave, 2 weeks ago, you were
Good.
playing live at the Toronto Intercare Center.
That was a lot of fun, man. And Corey's amazing too, man.
That's cool.
I think Corey and I got the same shirt on right now. What do you guys
We
think?
do, yeah. You got the 1.0 version flat, and this is a new one coming out. It's a liner jacket. That'll be ready for the April show.
What the hell? I feel like such an underperformer. I've got no cool shirts. I don't play guitars.
You got a cool
Dude, I
guitar on there.
suck.
Yeah, your hoodie's amazing. What? Pathfinder?
That's all
Come
right,
on,
but
man.
I mean, come on. I mean, like, I feel like I'm underperforming right now.
Actually, you know what? I
That's
caught the
two of
tail
us.
end of your stories on there, and then a phone call came in and it cut out. But it's very interesting to hear what the last of your live segment was talking about. And I know that you were mentioning a lot about school wasn't your thing, but that doesn't make you obviously not intelligent. Like you obviously are, and you're sophisticated, and you have these certain skills that makes you have a very interesting and very successful career in the military, man. And I thought that was kind of interesting, the points that you touched on.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. And you know what? I was, if you listened to enough of it, I don't know how much of it you heard, but holy moly, I was trying to establish how mega uncomfortable I was in having this discussion this morning because I don't like talking about myself in that way. I don't like establishing anything that anyone could consider as a humble brag. And I mean, it's the first time I've ever kicked out my IQ. It's the first time I've ever talked about how Dr. Art Finch in his podcast described how a kid like me that I thought was super dumb isn't super dumb, but the institutions around me made me think that I was super dumb. And the Army is what exposed me to how maybe smart I am. But until Dr. Art Finch said it the other day in the podcast, it had never really sank in. I didn't want to own how quote unquote special I am, which I can't even say the word special. It makes me feel uncomfortable, you know? But that's what that dude keeps repeating, is that dudes like me are special, not because like we can levitate. It's because of how our brains work. And I didn't understand how my brain worked to the degree or the depth that Dr. Art Finch describes until I listened to it yesterday. And so it would have been disingenuous for me to, as he says, disregard how big my brain is and then not put the message out to the rest of the warriors out there that if the world around you isn't working for you in the way that it's telling you that it's supposed to work, it's your job with your big brain to figure out a way to make it work. I figured out a way to make it work for me, but I didn't know that that's what I was supposed to do. I
I'm
just
dying here. I have to
bored,
ask you
you
a
know?
question because, like, when I was listening to it, I found that interesting. Like, first of all, I want to say thank you for all the compliments about guitar, but I've always had guitar in my hand, and I feel like the military. I'm the same way. School was not my thing, man. I feel like so. My question is, sorry, is that do you feel like maybe the military brought out and taught you how to process whatever target you want to learn? You know what I mean? So, like for me, becoming a sniper, like I was just an average Joe, whatever, corporal soldier, whatever, like dudes just said. When I started getting into recon and sniping, I feel like that really allowed me to really process. If I want to research something, I can dissect it because some of the teachings I learned from my mentors or whatnot, like I don't know, I just feel like my education was built from I didn't get it from school, I got it from the military. It helped me. That's why now I just picked this guitar up. I bought this one a year ago, and now like I feel like now that I'm devoting my thought into something like on how I want to learn it, I'm actually capable of breaking it down very quickly and achieving goals. Right. So my question is: you feel like that the military brought out that sense of that character out of you, you know, and then where you became this, you.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it is a question that I've never thought about in the way that I'm thinking about it now until yesterday when I listened to this podcast on, again, the psychological profile of an operator with Dr. Art Finch. And so, dude, I literally thought I was dumb. I just thought I was dumb.
I was always told I was dumb.
I was always told I was dumb. I thought I was dumb. I was dumb, but I'm not dumb.
No,
I just didn't know how to
nobody
learn
here
yet.
is.
And as Art Finch says, guys like me or guys like us, or maybe all of us, who knows, there's people who quote unquote are special that don't do good at other things, but they do good at certain things. And those things that they are certainly good at, they do so well that they are quote unquote special. And so in school, I was never no one encouraged me at all. In fact, they squashed me because I was failing. Because because anyone who stood in front of me was so yawningly, boringly stupid in my world that I couldn't listen to them because I didn't respect them.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you're boring me. Get out of here. I've got better things going on in my brain than your yawningly speech. So I sucked in school because I was disinterested in school because they didn't know how to make me interested. The military made me interested in two ways. One, it presented things to me that I was fascinated in, which I'd already started exploring, and that was shooting when I was a young kid and fieldcraft as a young kid and blah, 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 all of the things that I did as a young kid that felt right to me. So someone in an institution was going to teach me how to be more awesome at the things that I felt right inside of me. But the other thing that the Army did for me, which I didn't realize at the time, I realized it later into my career. But at the start of my career, I didn't understand this critical element for me. I needed a framework. I needed this structure that I could operate in, that I could understand. Because school doesn't offer that. School isn't a structure. It's a nebulous gray zone of boring delivery of inconsequential institutionalized information that quadratic formula. How is that going to help me? Get out of here. And
I got a story
so
about that, but yeah.
it didn't work for me, but the army worked for me. It delivered a construct where I could understand the left and right arcs, where I could understand if I failed here, there was consequences. And so it made me not only pick up my socks, it made me feel like, oh, there's hard things. I want to do hard things. Oh, is that your hardest? Bring harder. And so I was wired to pursue more. 11 out of 10, I'll do 12 out of 10. But that's my head, and that's not everyone. As it turns out, it's very rare. But as it turns out, if it's rare out there in society, it's not rare in the military. I've just met so many dudes who are wired like me that we just don't know how quote unquote special we are because no one ever explained it to us. And that's why I feel that one of the problems getting out of the military, transitioning out, is if I think I'm dumb and I'm going out onto civilian street as a veteran thinking I'm dumb, then that's what I'm going to perform too. And that's why I got lucky, man. I think that when I left the teams and I put that steel trap behind me and never looked back, I just had to look forward and think, I guess I better figure this out. And I put my JTF2 mindset into the puzzle in front of me called the civilian world and just pursued in a quote unquote special way that has helped me be successful to some degree.
It's very singular too. So the school system is that, and I mean this in the fact that it's on you. You have to learn and write the tests and do all the things. You can't ask for help. You have to, you sit down at a test and they give it to you singularly. But in the real world, outside of schooling, you work with teams, you work with people. If you don't know how to do something, somebody else does. You should be working together in order to do that.
But that's the difference. That's the difference. You're talking about it's on you and it's on teams, but in school, it's on you and you don't even know it's on you because no one explains it's on you. And in teams, no one explains it's on you because of the teams. These are things that you figure out. But the difference is in the military, you have mentors. In school, you have no one who's interested in you.
Every so often, I remember having a particular teacher, in a particular grade that was really interested in developing the students.
For how long?
Case, well, while I had him for that 1 year, right?
There
that
you
1
go.
year in a particular time. And that's what I mean.
Your grade 8 teacher who took a fascination in you for a year.
Yeah.
Versus the military who's going to take a fascination in you for your entire career. And I don't mean all of the military will take an entire fascination in you, but as the good mentors around you, the good leaders around you, even if there's only 1 or 10, it doesn't matter. As you move through your career, those people who are invested in you will be replaced by other people who are invested in you, other leaders who will invest in you and guide you and shape you. And so every year in the military is an opportunity for you to do better. Whereas in school, every year is an opportunity for you to Groundhog Day it if you don't know how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about this a little bit because I'm interested. Ways of learning. Let's talk about it because it's interesting that you say this because in school, personally, I excelled at, let's say, math when I had someone demonstrating it for me. So if I could see somebody do it, I could do it. And then physically, if I was learning how to shoe a horse or learning how to brown cattle, again, if I could see somebody do it in front of me, okay, I got that, and then I can move on. Were you guys similar? Did you guys have different ways of learning? Do you have something that else, like a different way that helped you connect to whatever it was you're learning? Glenn, let's start.
Yes, but I'm going to wait till last.
Glenn, let's start with you.
If I can go back about 2 minutes,
he's going to his notes.
Writing notes, like all this kind of stuff. I feel like I missed an epic podcast somewhere. Sean,
it's put out by a guy called Dr. Art Finch. So hit me up later. I'll send you the link.
So were you guys on it?
No, a friend from the Hills sent it to me.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Thanks. So ways of learning. Oh man. I kind of wish I saw or listened to that conversation about it, because when Shaun was talking about his school experience, man, that was kind of pull on my heartstrings, because I was not a good student, like at all, until probably after university. Um, I, I I was a dyslexic, or am a dyslexic person, kid, whatever you want to call it, and um, it was being in the school system itself was very, very difficult, um, especially with identifying it and kind of give me not necessarily like an easy route forwards, but just kind of supporting in me in which way I kind of view and interact with the world. It was, the comments generally were like, "Hey, great kid, needs to work harder." So that kind of stuck with me for, I mean, I guess my whole life. Um, so it wasn't until later on that I realized that I learned it a different way. There were some clues in sports and martial arts, because I was uh all that kind of stuff I really just loved. Uh I would say I was pretty good at it, I guess. Um and I realized, I'm like, okay, how can I feel comfortable, I feel like in my own skin when I'm playing sports and doing martial arts. How can I translate this to the classroom? And I never found a way to do that until after university, until I was I was tested as a 33-year-old, uh, as a gift from a family friend that wanted to help me kind of progress in this way. And it was an expensive program, and they're like, hey, send you to this thing. And for the first time in my life, I felt good reading.
Mm.
Like I found out that I was a kinesthetic person. So sorry, I'm talking a long time here, fellas, so cut
It's
me
all
off
good, man.
anytime. So if there's an
That's what we do.
so if there's the alphabet, A B C D E F G L M N O P, I I know that those letters exist, but because I don't have like this kinesthetic response to it, it doesn't register as much.
Mm. So you got to be able to touch it, right?
Yeah, touch it, and then once I touch it, I have this kind of point of reference now that I can refer back to.
Mm-hmm.
In this course, I tested highly in a bunch of other places, but in terms of that, it was my brain had difficulty reading it. But once I had the patterns, I was good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So when I would read a sentence, uh, you know, I would pick up what was going on if the word had a photo, or I interacted with that word previously. Mountain, dog, cat, I got it. But if there's a word like the, in, a, there, it's kind of ambiguous a little bit.
Yeah.
So I would continue the sentence, but I I would track back to backfill. So as I continue to get more information, I would backfill, and fill up that story.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of kind of real life application and other things, I was able to recognize patterns, how I fit in, and how to move through things. And I love the field craft stuff. I wasn't good at it because I kept on getting lost. But that way, though, when it comes back to ways of learning, that's why jujitsu is super important, and training time, and kind of taking a step back and asking questions, not necessarily in a linear pattern, but from a different perspective, helps me gain like a frame point of reference of what my limits are, and I can see it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, learning is, I find it incredibly fascinating, and I love kind of watching people learn and how they learn, because I can take something from that, and listen to someone like Dave, who's a phenomenal musician. That to me is unreal. Or like a sushi chef that knows how to roll stuff properly, like, and just punch him out is
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. So yeah, I think that having that experience through life and not quitting, even though I was kind of getting my what kicked in,
Mhm.
and still keep on trying. I think it was a huge benefit for me, and in sharing that experience with other, honestly, younger kids that are having a hard time
Mm.
with school and whatever. It's like, hey, don't quit, just stay in the fight, but let's talk about it a little bit more in a different way, and not a
Yeah.
1 2 second conversation. Let's talk about it for like a couple hours over the next couple weeks.
So let me get this, let's just see if this when you're kind of backframing
Yep.
or backfilling your stuff, is it kind of going like from a two-dimensional image in your head to like a three-dimensional image in your head? Like it allows you to gain depth by hitting those different angles?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And and that's the tricky part when it comes to kind of I would say multiple choice questions or kind of long answer or fill in the blanks. It
Mm.
gets kind of difficult because you know uh if it's a question about a story or an experience, it's kind of difficult for me to uh answer it within that kind of paragraph provided versus, hey, if you want to talk to me about a certain experience and ask me questions about that and how it actually was, I'll knock it out of the park.
Raj.
So the backfilling part, it's tricky because it does fatigue my eyes and my brain
Mhm.
quite a bit because there is a bit of a kind of wobble to go backwards. But yeah, I think it's a weird skill to have, but it's difficult in other areas.
Yeah. Yeah, there's give and take with everything, right? I think
Yeah.
there's it applies itself really well to particular areas and doesn't apply it well itself to another area. Corey, what about yourself? What ways of learning do you have? What ways do you learn?
The only way I've ever learned, which is the hard way, doing things wrong at least 3 or 4 times and just struggling and grinding through it. But it's never been
I think that's where
really,
we met.
yeah, trying to let go of an airplane while I was flying through the air, not wanting to let go, but
Yeah.
and trying to perfect the perfect cup of coffee, which I'm still trying to
Mm.
chase, thanks to Shaun and Elaine from Arrowhead and Dave who roasts as well. So that's a side passion, and I think it sounds to me like there's a common theme. All of us here kind of had that struggle going through school. For me, high school wasn't really something I particularly excelled at. I did better at skateboarding and kind of skipping class near the end. I was always creative in the art department and entrepreneurialism wise and the side jobs, but I guess I always felt stupid until I really found something I was passionate about, which was shooting a machine gun, and I love that. But getting really into it, I think that's kind of when you talk about anything that gives you the structure and framework to perfect understanding something really well. That's an excellent foundation for starting uh, an ability to develop skills that you can apply for life. All of us, I think, the benefits we've achieved from the military, there certainly are benefits, although people will argue that there's negatives or more negatives than positives. For me, overall, at least, I think there's a lot more positive that the military gave me, despite a few twists and turns through the career and dealing with some stuff coming back from overseas. The military is an excellent foundation, and a lot of people will say, we're in a dark era. For those that are considering or are currently just getting in or in the process of starting their career, it's an excellent institution, and really, it's what you get out of it. What you put into it is what you get out of it. And for all of us, I think you could argue that we've learned a few skills from the military that we'll take with us. For me, I guess the grind of being an entrepreneur, a vetrepreneur, you really realize how hard things are, and you think back to like selection or course, those times where not everybody made it through, and you really found the way to push deep down and get that inner grit going. Those are things that you need to rely upon or even just learning skills, perfecting the art of the perfect shot, the math that you didn't think was necessary when you're loading in all the basics. Those are all necessary skills that come out as evidence, and you start
Yeah.
putting things together. And yeah, I guess when you think about it, what is success? So what's the definition of success? Is it, to some people, maybe it's monetary, but if you can really find a way to achieve some sort of means, even financial gains from something you truly enjoy, to me, I think that's success. And helping others, finding passion in the craft and the art that you do. Those are things that, whether it's on the jiu-jitsu mats, designing things for new designs, coming out with new ideas for products. Those are all things that I think people could agree upon that you can find joy from in what you do.
Yeah, success is what we choose it to be, right? That's
Mhm.
that's where the fun part is.
I'm going to stick to ways of learning,
Yeah.
but I will say this because it's really important. What Corey brought up is success, and I don't want to side rail things too much. I just want to throw out this thought for anyone who's listening right now, because Corey is right on it. He raises an excellent point. And for each of us, it is an individual determination of what success means to us. But I'll throw this out to the group because you're all a fair bit younger than I am. And here's just the point that I want to make. And you'll understand this when you hit 60. 100% you'll understand it.
If I make it.
Here's the deal. When I left the teams, the first thing that I thought was success was, since the Army paid me $5 an hour to be a tier 1 warrant officer, I better go out and reestablish what money means to me. So I chase money. And the first time that I made 6 figures in a year, I thought, oh, this is the path to success. I chased the dollar because the dollar was the game. The dollar was the challenge. If I can't do a long range shot, then I'll do a long range chase the dollar. And so the challenge for me when I left the teams was to make a buck, because the game amused me. The game challenged me. The game kept me in the game. Then when I made money, it bored me because it just wasn't enough. And so throughout your life, you'll find yourself in different phases based on your age or your circumstances, where success is defined in a certain way. And then at the age of 50, it'll be defined in a certain way. And now at the age of 60, here's how I define success. I don't care about money. I really don't. All I care about is time. And whatever time I've got left on the planet, that's my only resource. I've got enough money to not worry about money. I don't have enough time. And so my idea of success at 60 is this now. If I can make someone better, I'm trying to pour myself back into others, not into myself. I mean, I look after myself. Of course, I try to get better myself. But my main satisfaction, my main sense of success nowadays is others. And I've heard other, like, wiser people than me, like older people than me, or whatever you want to say it, however you want to say it. But I've heard it from not my peers, but from people that I look up to who are a little bit older than me, say the same thing. And so I think maybe it's a natural evolution of the phases of success that we all move through as we age. At some point, I believe that we all will reach a point where it's just mostly about everyone else around you rather than whatever else you've got in front of you.
Rising tide lifts all boats. I love that
Yeah,
saying.
buddy. It gives me a lot of it gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Mhm.
Chasing a dollar it gives me zero satisfaction. Chasing betterment in other people, that's kind of my jam nowadays, which wasn't my jam when I was 30.
I think Dave's got a bromance going on for you right now. He's just falling in love
because he understands. I think he
Yeah, it's
understands.
just
I
the
think we
love
all
in your heart,
understand.
right?
Mhm.
That's and sharing that like I'm a person who had a lot of anger in my heart, man, and I feel like it's kind of cool what you're saying there because recently I've been keeping tabs on a young fellow that I taught DP1 back in 2017, and from the Argyles, and now took his component transfer, and he's going to one paper CLI, and I gave him my beret, my cap badge, I gave him my tunic, you know what I mean? Like I want to try to set him up for success for when he gets to the battalion, man. And like he's like, don't you want this stuff? I'm like, you know what, man? I'd rather that just continues and hopefully it helps. You know what I mean? Like I'm all about that.
Yeah, I've got no uniforms. I've got no berets. I gave it all away to the troops who I thought that guy'll be all right. He's going to get my stuff. I've got a cap badge over here, special operations cap badge with no beret to put it on it. I mean, like I've got nothing. I gave it all away to the troops.
Here's a random question that I've never actually were your berets tan back in the day? Or were they
No,
just
they were
green?
black Nomex face hoods.
Ooh, but I mean, like was it like your official headdress?
No, the fancy boy berets didn't exist when I was in.
Nice. Don't have to wear a beret if I don't actually have one.
Correct.
Smart. Actually, I got a bit of a story about this. And it actually goes to something that we were talking about earlier, Shaun. And it goes into what we're talking about right now here. So when I was a young sapper, I was overseas. My sergeant had mentioned something called the Sapper Leader course. And at the time I heard about it and I was like, oh, I want to go on it. And it's like the Ranger course for engineers. And so it's a bag drive. And it's one of those things that like, that's what you want. And you get a tab and it says Sapper on it. And but it's an American course. And so I got home from overseas and I started asking around. I was like, hey, what's this thing about a Sapper Leader course? How do we get on it? What do we do? How do we do this? And I was told that we hadn't sent anybody for a number of years because the last 3 guys they sent all RTB'd. And they all voluntarily withdrew. And that was just that. So the unit, in all their wisdom, decided that they weren't going to send anybody else because they didn't want to look bad.
Well, they were looking bad.
Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? No, I'm not let that happen. So I started doing the paperwork. I started contacting people down in Fort Leonard Road. I started like reaching out, like, how do we get Canadians back on this course? What do we need to do? Is there something that we need to like make up? And they're like, nope, send us your qualifications and your people and blah, 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 all that stuff. And I started passing it up the chain. And I got we got the approval. Everyone said, yeah, we should absolutely be sending people on this course. Let's send some people on this course. And that got sent out to the field troops. And then now I had wanted to go on the course. Unfortunately, they sent somebody else. And I was angry about that for quite a while. But over time, I started to realize like it doesn't matter that I didn't get to go on the course because now other people get to go on the course. And just recently at Remembrance Day, I got to see one of the young sappers that was there when I was there. He was a sapper at the time. He's a sergeant now. And he came up to me and I was like, hey, buddy, how's it doing? How's it nice to see you? And he had the sapper tab on his DUs. And I was so excited. I was so happy for him in that moment that he was able to do that course. And I asked him, like, do you know how you were able to get on that course? And he was like, well, yeah, I applied and I got on it. I'm like, no, but we didn't say it. I told him the whole story and he started laughing. And I felt better about him getting that course than I think I would have felt being able to go on that course just because of, I think what we're talking about, which is, when you're talking about what is success, to me, that's success. I got to see somebody thrive and do something awesome because I put in a little bit of work years ago.
Yeah, but you started it off with the wrong intention.
For sure. Absolutely.
And you kind of got lucky. And I mean lucky.
I did.
That you finally came to the right conclusion many, many, many years later.
Absolutely.
And that's not the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure.
And so how was that that was a failure on your behalf, but why was it a failure? It was a failure of the system to not teach you how to do it better, to not teach you that it's about the team, not about the individual. It was a failure of your leadership around you to help you understand why you're there. You're not there for the jammy goes. You're there to kick ass and do your part in the team. And so you were kind of kicking ass in a sense, but looking after yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not the right way. And you know that, I know that, we all know that. And that's a failure within the system,
True.
not you, the failure, Chance Burles.
Well, there was a failure on my part too.
There is a bit of
I didn't see it. Yeah, there is a bit of that. But the point I was trying to make was the fact that even over time, you can do something selfishly, right? I joined the army because I got to blow stuff up. They're going to pay me to blow stuff up like that. All right, I'm good with that. But I also learned through that act of selfishness. I learned about the team. I learned about the definition of success. I learned what was. It took me a while, right?
Well, it took you an entire career and then
Yeah.
out of the military. I mean, you learned it after the fact, long after the fact.
But the important part, I think, is that I learned it, because it would not be the same. Like life would the stuff that we're doing here. Who knows what would have happened had I not learned how to work through the team. I mean, you're going to hit mistakes along the way. Same thing with school, right? You're going to go into school and you're going to sit there and you can think you're dumb for many, many, many years, but until you actually learn the lesson or figure out what your version of success is, then you'll just sit in that same mindset. You'll never actually learn. You'll never actually grow. You'll never actually go anywhere outside of that.
I have a very similar example with that. I always wanted my jump course, man. I was so mad. I can never get my jump course. And I would pass all the tests, PT, like, was never a problem. But I just never got the course. But was I a little butthurt about that at times? Yeah. Even the selection for Ranger course, like I wanted to do that so bad. Like I ripped my feet apart for the ruck marks and stuff like that. And like this, I always wanted these groups of goes, but I never wanted to be a badge collector. That's not why I wanted to do it. And that was the one thing that was, at least I knew that, okay, yeah, cool, like jump out of the airplane. Well, I wanted to jump out of an airplane. I've yet to still fallen from the air, right? Like everybody here's got more jumps than me. So
we have a fix for that.
Right, I know, Pegasus, I know. Tim Ferriss all over me.
Yeah.
I know I gotta get up there. Anyways, so I've always wanted that, but you're right. Like I always found that the best parts of looking back in my career, I guess, was the mentorship. I had great mentors. I had horrible mentors. I had people who definitely like you would never want to follow them in any direction of what they've done, just because they're not a good person. You know what I mean? It could be just a rotten soul. You know what I mean? I've dealt with a couple of those, or then some of them being not necessarily inexperienced. But I can work with that. If someone doesn't have the experience but has the passion for, you got me all day, man. I will work with you, and I train like DP1s or BMQs. Like if I got a kid that can't do, I'm in 25 push-ups, I'm gonna work with him, and we're gonna work as a team. I always loved that environment because CrossFit is very similar to that. Martial arts is very similar to that. And I always found that the mentors who I was blessed to have been able to follow, that I wanted to make sure that we're capable of passing on. Did I want those groups of goals? I think I wanted more of the experience. Like I wanted more operation deployments, right? Like I really wanted to help people. I wanted to serve and get behind that. But I think the best part of what you're saying there, Chance, is definitely like there is that part of selfishness. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but like Shaun's saying, finding what is the most important thing that what's the most important part. And I think helping others is what fills my heart and fills yours as well, right? Like we're all kind of like-minded people here.
Absolutely.
Can we get back to the other topic at hand, which was how we learn? Because I don't feel like we really worked through the panel on this specifically.
For sure. I think, yeah, we did. We went on a tangent, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
I sure did. I think, well, we haven't talked to Dave about your ways of learning, and we haven't hit you, Shaun. So let's dive into Dave.
Did we hit Corey in detail as well? Or yeah,
Corey, do you feel like we explored your definition of or way of learning?
Well, I always probably lack a few details, but my overall answer was just basically doing it the hard way, grinding it out, learning by doing. I've been very much a physical learner. I'm not too much of a details fella until I really get into something and start hyper focusing, like roasting my own coffee. That's kind of like where you get into just like kind of being a generalist, I guess, is where LS for me, finding things that I love doing, working on bikes, riding bikes, wheeling bikes. Those are all things you kind of learn each component. Similar to the military, it teaches you the skills physically, anyways. You learn the concepts of rifle, you break it down, then you shoot it. It's the same concept that I think I apply to the business principle, aligning with mentors and working the business, kind of building it from falling from the sky and then
Here's a
trying
question
to
for you though.
survive.
Is it the physical act, like the being able to touch it with your hands and take it apart, that helps you understand the pieces of it, or is it watching somebody do it? Because those are very different things. That you could watch somebody take apart a bike.
For me, it's you have to do it. Just like
Physically touch
understanding
it. Yeah.
running your own business, you won't know the joy and frustrations of trying to make ends meet until you've done it, and then you've grinded through it. The frustrations of production and the issues you'll run into until you've done it yourself. You really completely understand things after you've covered all kind of rules. So to me, that's how I've learned, and I don't know if it's the right way, but it's the way that I've learned to just grind it out. And now it's interesting to see the evolution of where things have gone with the brand and how you can kind of see our niche is really into the passion of power sports. Our focus is always been mental health initiatives, but we've started to create a few other businesses just from that mentorship. When we talk about the things that we leave behind, you're talking, Shaun, basically just being left with a cap badge. Ultimately, I think that's what Mad Hatter Industries will be. It'll be just an idea and a concept about what people need to do to find what it is that they're truly passionate about and live their own adventure. And we've worked with young professional racers that have gone up in the amateur league. We have one fellow going to CSPK, the pros. So he's got his card to go in this season, which we're excited to watch. Young stunt riders and soldiers as well that we've worked with, starting their own stuff, like that coffee that Dave tried the other day. That's really interesting to see where things are going. And then another person that we're working with on our team to start our own fitness consulting business. So I think to me, that'll be the success and legacy of Mad Hatter Industries, working with the collective and other like-minded initiatives in the veteran community, and growing those skills and passions into something that people find value in. That's, to me, true success, and really how we learned is by doing and working with others like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, any thoughts on how you learn?
I feel like I've been talking way too much, so I'm sorry. I think I swore. I'm sorry if I did.
Oh yeah, you should be sorry.
Great audience for that.
Well, we are live, right? I want to be respectful. Like Shaun and Glen, what we were saying too about reading, like I'm a horrible reader. Like you will never find me sitting there reading a book ever. Like I'd rather be doing some exercise with my brain, doing other things. Reading is just not my thing. School I was never good at. Like just because even art, like I would still fail art because and I can paint, I can mold, I can do anything. Give me something to make, I can make it. But I would fail just because I just couldn't apply. Like I didn't like the timings, I didn't like what the topic was, I didn't care for it. I liked law. In high school, that was one subject that actually surprisingly did fairly well was law. And then obviously that phase that was pretty easy. I just had to show up. So I'm blessed in that way. I almost dropped out of high school. I went away. I did tasking with the JTF2. And I was like, these guys are rock stars, man. I'm like, I'm done with school. I'm done. Like, I know what I want to do. Everybody's like, you're an idiot. Finished school. I did. I got my diploma. But shortly after that, then I ended up going on my first deployment. I felt like from there on, I started to feel like a little bit more of a professional soldier. So I was like, that was helping me a lot more as well. I'm starting to build this profession. But nowadays, how I learn, like bushwhacking, like I learned how to make my own website. So I'm a person I like to do. Like I have my hands on, you know what I mean? Like if I need to read an article on something, I'll do that. But I'm not gonna read a novel on it. No, I can't do it. So boring. I want to find out what I need to do, troubleshoot, solve the problem, move forward, right? And uh, and now lately, that's what I've brought in. So I was learning how to build a business, which now I'm actually starting to build up again slowly. While a new passion with instruments, I have a mentor now, and having a mentor in whatever you desire, whether if it's martial arts, and then any type of academics, or if you're building motorcycles, automotive, like whatever your passion is, I think I have to want it, love it, and and then commit to it. Because if I don't commit to it, then the results won't be there, right? And that was the one thing being in the sniper teams and working with them and having my mentors base me, but also guide me, educate me. Um, that was I forget where I was going with that. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. But
Welcome to the Tangent Show.
Sounded like
right,
you
yeah,
wanted to
my
buy a
bad.
motorcycle. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
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 Bad.
What motorcycle did you buy?
Not me, no. We put some wheels on that.
Yeah. There you go. That'd be a heck of a ride, man. You can play while you're going. Be fun times.
Cool.
Sidecar.
Yeah, the being able to physically touch something, that's
Yeah.
it just yeah, there's something to be there's obviously a kinetic way of learning as
But
well
like
as
you were
a
saying, like if you watch someone, like I learned how to play hockey by myself. Like I learned how to skate like a hockey player just by watching. No one ever taught me how to do it. I just put on skates as a young child, and I was out there, man. And I was playing with people who actually play organized hockey, and I was keeping up with them self-taught. You know what I mean? So it was like I had to see it, do it, and then and then if I had mentorship, who knows where that could have went, right? It's
Who knows?
interesting.
Yeah. Sean, what are your thoughts on ways of
Yeah,
learning?
I'd just like to establish a few things just so that it will maybe cause others out there listening to this promote some thought. Maybe you'll think about yourself after the fact when we're done here. Just take a few minutes to think about what I'm about to say. So, when I was a kid and I was in high school, I remember a distinct moment where I was in class, English class, and the teacher had broken out the Shakespeare of the day, some book that they wanted us to read. And that's your homework. Go read that freaking book. And I was like, okay, William Shakespeare or whatever. So I flicked through that thing, banged it off, got into class the next day. And the teacher said, so let's turn to chapter whatever. What are your thoughts on this? And everyone was stunned because they didn't understand a freaking word of Shakespeare. And I waited the appropriate amount of time for someone smarter than me, quote unquote, to raise their hand and explain Shakespeare. And when the appropriate amount of time had gone by, I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll stick my hand up. So I stuck my hand up and the teacher said, yes, Sean. And I just basically rattled off my interpretation of Shakespeare. And when I'd finished, everyone looked at me like I was a freak. Because
right?
I was interpreting Shakespeare better than the teacher. The teacher looked at me and said, who taught you that? And I said, well, I just read it yesterday. I didn't know that I understood Shakespeare, nor did anyone else. And maybe I didn't, but it impressed everyone. And so that moment in that class at that precise time did this for me. Wow. How come y'all can't understand Shakespeare? So that was my first recognition of, are y'all dumb or am I the dumb one? I didn't know because everyone was telling me I was dumb. So I thought, I guess dumb people understand Shakespeare. And so from that point forward, as I bounced into the military, I always thought whatever I think is out of line with what everyone else thinks. And so it took me a while to figure all of that out, that I learn in a different way, I think in a different way. And so to the point when someone is, if someone has a rifle in front of me in basic training, this is the FNC 1A1. Pay attention to this, pay attention to that. Here's what I think. dude, you're boring me. You showed me the weapon. I understood in the first 10 seconds it's a weapon. Now, can you hand it over so that I can freaking get to work understanding it? Because as Dr. Art Finch says in his The Psychological Profile of an Operator, we're experiential learners. I don't want to hear your lecture on a rifle. Just freaking hand it to me and then step aside and I'll go crush it, because that's how I learn. I need it in my hand. I need to kick its ass so that I can figure it out. That's how I learn. That's how my boys learn. And so I've watched my boys in the past, and it wasn't until I listened to Art Finch's podcast yesterday that I realized they learn like I learn. Like my eldest son, Evan, is now in first year engineering. He's working on the mega math problems. Like I cannot understand what he's doing because my brain does not work like that.
That's awesome.
But teachers say to him, like, how did you get that answer? Display your steps. And he arrives at the answer correctly without having to do the steps. That's the way my life was.
Very
Not in
cool.
math, but in everything else. Like, I couldn't show my work. I could just show you the outcome. If you tell me to get on top of that building and don't give me a plan, I'll wave to you from the top of the building. And no one will have taught it to me. I won't know how to do it, but I'll be on top of the building. I'll figure it out. I won't even sometimes know how I did it myself, but I will solve the problem in an out-of-the-box mindset that gets me on top of the building, waving and smirking at whoever is below me in a jauntily, cockily way, we'll say it. And that's just who I am. It's done me no favors, for sure. And so the way I learn is through experiential. The way I learn is through creating a solution that I don't even know sometimes how I created it. So all of that to say, the kid in the Shakespeare class, the kid who stands on top of buildings and waves down at the crowd below them with a smile, that's me. But it took a long time to learn me. And that's your job out there for whoever's listening to this. When you're in high school, when you're in the army, when you're in your cubicle, whatever it is, you got to think about who you are at a deep level and understand how you do you better. Don't worry about how everyone else is telling you how to do it better. You do you. But that simple saying of you do you is much more than a quaint little comment on top of your kitchen pantry. You do you means freaking get to work figuring out who you are, and then you can go kick ass.
I love
Well said.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
glad
again,
Shaun went last, man, because there's
Right.
no way anyone can back that one up.
Wow, that's not true. I'm just throwing out ideas, boys. Just to observation.
This is why the moment he used to do the little hand flick, and I mentioned it too many times because he would finish his statement and then like flick the mic off to the side, and I was always like, oh yeah, he needs to be able to do a mic drop.
Yeah, it
But
was getting embarrassing.
now
I
he
felt
doesn't
like
do it at all.
Felt like it was weird.
But you know, you bring up a great point, and I mean, we've talked about this over the last couple of days, is know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, figure it out. Take the time to figure it out, to figure out who you are and how you can do you better. And if that takes 10 years,
It'll take you as long as it takes you based on how much work you put into figuring out who you are. And here's a super good tip. I wish it's a tip that someone would have handed to me when I was a young buck. I was kind of organically doing it anyway, but I wasn't doing it as fully as I could have. And it's this tip: find awesome people and emulate. Just chase them for a while to figure out how awesome you might be able to become. Because if you're that skinny, underperforming kid and the system has been telling you that you're dumb as a brick, and I've literally said it, I'm embarrassed to say that recently I have said, man, I was dumb as a brick when I was in high school. As it turns out, I wasn't dumb as a brick. I was brighter than my teacher. He was as dumb as a brick on an IQ level. I just didn't respect him because he bored me to tears.
Yeah.
And so it was my job then to figure out who I was, but I couldn't because I didn't know who I was. It was the system's job to teach me who I was, but it didn't because that system doesn't do that. So then at some point, I've got to take the responsibility for defining myself through deep work and through looking around and finding awesome people that I can chase in order to figure out what that even means. That's what I feel is the real job, is to do better, to ask more of yourself, to find people who are kicking ass and then follow them for a while and then just put on a pair of boots and go try your first ass kick.
Can
And
I
the
throw
first ass
something in
kick
there?
should be you. You should be kicking your own. So
Right.
however you like do your boot, kick your own ass.
And
Dave?
yeah, I wanted to
agree
just
more.
jump in there because I saw that podcast with you and Seb talking about surround yourself about being awesome people. So if people are watching that, check it out, man. Like I don't know if they have it on both your walls, but I saw that and I found it very inspirational.
If anything that I say is in any way a tiny bit inspirational, most of it is just stuff that I'm repeating that I've learned from smart people, from people who inspired me. I haven't cracked the mysteries of the universe. I'm still mystified by a lot of stuff, but the little bit of wisdom that I chuck out is from people who are way wiser than I am.
We stand on the shoulders of giants, right?
I need to. I'm 5'9".
Well, yeah, and you're not going to stand on my shoulders, that's for sure. We're just about we are just about at an hour here, so let's go around one more time, see if there's any final thoughts. Glenn, what do you got? Any final thoughts? Ways of learning?
Nothing, man. I think I learned a lot from all you guys today.
You got your notes?
Yeah, I got a bunch here, man. Just paying it forward, and I think Dave and Corey kind of hit on it a little bit, and it made me think about, man, just having a good attitude. Having a good attitude and just getting after it it goes a long way, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Dave, what do you got? Any final thoughts?
No, I'm just obviously I think we covered a lot of stuff and quickly here between all of us. I'm sure we can go on for another hour. I just want to say thank you for having me, man, and I hope those who are listening, this isn't bothering you too much, but I have been slowly getting better, which has been great. For everybody out there for your support and love, man. Like I'm grateful. I'm truly blessed. So thank you.
Our pleasure having you, brother. Corey?
Yeah,
Any
I think
final thoughts?
everyone nailed it out of the park today. Shaun, really off that last tangent. If anything, it just feels comforting to know that you're not alone in the same thoughts, and it's really validating to hear the just getting after it mantra is really where the passion and connection of finding where you're supposed to be in the time of life where you have those opportunities to do that. And anyone listening, I'd say just get after it, give it a go, and you certainly are going to be less regretful giving it your all and trying your all than talking about it and planning the perfect plan. Without an execution or actual first step or boot on the ground, there's no successful mission or adventure. So get out there, get after it, find your community and those you connect with. And as well, if there's ever anything we can do to help anyone here, I'm sure will echo it. We're happy to help and chat. And I love working with people and helping them get an idea into execution. But ultimately, that resides on you to take that step and do it. We'll be there to help guide you, but it's your steps to take and find the things that you love doing.
Yeah.
And there is a really awesome motorcycle coming out right now. You guys got to check out the new Buell Concept Supermoto being designed by Roland Sands. It's absolutely fantastic for anybody riding motorcycles. I'm super stoked to see that coming to concept. I almost put the $50 deposit on a new bike, but the wife said no. There's apparently two's enough.
Don't do it.
So
two's enough.
I wish.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of these awesome things that you can get into, but they are kind of pricey as you get farther into them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just look at some of the guitars on the back of Dave's wall there, right? Those are
I love that Telecaster,
those are some beauties,
camouflage one.
I do love your point there, Corey. is the no plan survives first contact. So just keep getting after it. It's fantastic. Man, that is a beauty. Shaun, any final thoughts? Anything rattle around before we
Yeah,
go?
just briefly. Just wanted to say this. Thanks, fellas, of course. Obviously bringing the heat. I mean, any thoughts that I have are just built off thoughts of the things that you guys are saying. I think we're all pretty aligned, and it's really nice to be able to throw out a few words and listen to a few words and build out a few words together that others can benefit from. I'd like to conclude with this. As I've stated, you got to learn who you are. You got to get to know yourself a bit better. And the more you can explore yourself, the better you will become. At some point, hopefully, you become good enough that you can help others around you. And as you're helping others around you, maybe you lose your way. And at some point, you find yourself struggling. Well, that's the time when you can draw back on all of the other people that you've helped over the years. It's a reciprocal ebb and flow life. Sometimes we're the man, sometimes we're at a rock bottom. Sometimes we're on the peaks, sometimes we're in the valleys. That is life. Life always goes better when you're doing your best, but sometimes your best isn't good enough. So you've got to learn ways to do better even when you're not your best. And that's what I love about this panel. I think we all understand what that means. I think we've all figured out a way to manage our lives and the lives around us to do better, to inspire others, to expect more of ourselves. And so I appreciate all of you coming and delivering that same message, I believe, and food for thought for the future young generation. If you want to do better, start following some of these men and see how that plays out for you.
This is the way. This is it, man. I love it that that's a great final message. Seek out cool people. Do cool things. Have fun. We really appreciate, obviously, you boys coming on here. Glenn, Corey, Dave. Awesome chat. Dave, you got an open seat here anytime you want, man. We do these every day, so anytime.
Thank you.
And Corey, you got an open seat. Glenn, I keep bugging you every once in the DM, so make sure that whenever you can get on here, we can get you on here. And yeah, hopefully we've all learned. I know I have learned. I've built. I feel grown. Maybe I should add another inch onto my chin. Let me just do a little bit bigger.
Your head will poke out over the camera.
You'll never get out of that airplane if you grow
All we'll see is beard.
Dear. Yeah, it well, I trimmed it up a little bit so that it wasn't so
I noticed that you're not stroking quite as much as well. That little poker tail is slipping into the background.
Well, that's the thing. I see it once and then I'm like, "Ooh, there it is." But yeah, I really appreciate it. Hopefully everyone else well, I know everyone else out there is enjoying this, and we're going to keep doing it tomorrow. So with us tomorrow on The Collective, you can learn, build, and grow. Let's hang out tomorrow. Chimo. Oh, actually, before we go,
Chimo.
I got one last thing. Tomorrow, we have a full ladies panel. 5 awesome chicks.
What's the timing on that again?
That is going to be at 1300 Pacific, 1400 Mountain. It's because I have to teach.
Dude. Yeah,
so we have
commitments
Sundays
tomorrow, so I won't be able to
I'm gonna have
make
to change some timings. Okay, 1300 hours PST.
Who we got, Chance? Who are
so we got Kate Stewart
awesome
from Shoot Like a Girl podcast. She's going to be joining us. We have Julia Shelley. She's been on here before, former UN flight crew, has been kind of all over the place, and a bodybuilding champion, I believe. I can't remember.
Competitor, yeah.
And then we have Jillian's joining us again. Jillian Brown. She's a photographer and adventurer and awesome.
Jillian Brown Photography.
Yep, Jillian Brown Photography. And then Julie Kelly is joining us as well.
Yay, Julie.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
she must be back from Hawaii. Maybe she's joining us from Hawaii. Okay.
No, she's just getting back. We were
check.
right after. Anyway, and I feel bad. I can't remember the last one. I'm going to look it up.
Oh, you're on the spot. You're feeling it, aren't you?
On the spot. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
I got it here.
Rolling down the better dab there.
More than just a little bit. And my friend Ashley Ashley Forsyth. She's
I'll check. Is that the massage therapist or
no?
Okay.
Ashley is a former Navy, and now I believe is. I'm not sure if she has it or she was going for it. Her master's in psychology.
Oh,
Awesome chick. She was with the staff on Warrior Adventure Canada, and she's an adventurer as well, mountain climber, all kinds of good stuff. So we're
maybe
gonna
you
have
could send her the link to the psychological profile of an operator. Ask her to listen to it and see if we really are as weird as we are.
I think that's kind of a given. We're all kind
I
of
think
a
it's a
little
given.
bit. But yeah, so tomorrow we got the ladies one, and then we got some more cool stuff coming up this week. But I'm not going to tell Shaun, or I might tell
Don't,
Shaun
because
I'm just
that's
going
the
to keep bugging him
routine.
with it. We'll
5
see.
tomorrow. Fantastic.
And sorry, you're correct. You're correct. It's 1200 PST, 1300 Mountain.
Okay.
My bad.
Check.
So,
Okay.
1200 PST, 1300 Mountain, 1500 Eastern, 1600 Atlantic. For anybody
1200
that's
it
out there.
is. Check.
So we're good to go. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Chimo.
Have a
Chimo
good day.
times 2.